Hello, be welcome to this technical session today. Again, we want to give a look to Microsoft Entra ID, how to manage user using Microsoft Entra ID. But in that case, we want to create a user in Microsoft Entra ID using PowerShell. First step, when we want to open the Microsoft Entra, we can tap here in this. We have to open the portal.azure.com, and in our portal.azure.com, I can open here the Microsoft Entra ID, and in the Microsoft Entra ID, we can see the default tenant that is managed here, and I can select on users and see all the users existing here on Microsoft Entra ID. To create a new user, we saw in the last video that we can select here on new and create a new user here. Another possibility to open Microsoft Entra ID itself is to open the app launcher here on the top and select here Entra, and the default tenant will open into entra.microsoft.com, and in the entra.microsoft.com you see the Entra admin portal, and in the Entra admin portal you can click here on users and see all the users that exist here in this tenant, in the active tenant, in the default tenant. Now to add a user, we can also click here on add and add a user here, and you see that all the features, the functionalities you have here in the entra.microsoft.com are the same as if you are here on portal.azure.com and you look here for Entra ID. When you type here Entra, you see Entra ID, you see that we have the similar functionalities that we have here on the portal.azure.com as always here also in Microsoft Entra Administration Center. Okay, now in the session today we want to create a user or manage the user here using PowerShell. When we want to use PowerShell, how can we do that? We need first to install, for example, for the day of today, the PowerShell 7.5.2, the Windows version, and the x64 MSI. You can see here on the GitHub that you can click there and download the current 7.5.2 release of PowerShell portal. Okay, now when we have download the PowerShell version, we can open it here, and you see the MSI is there, and I can double click it to install the PowerShell. It needs a bit time, and I can hit on next, 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 install. It needs a bit time to be installed. Can hit here on finish, and the installation of PowerShell is done. So I can now open the PowerShell by tapping here on in the search PowerShell, and here I have to open the PowerShell version 7. I have to PowerShell 7. I want to open it as administrator and I have to run it as administrator. Now the PowerShell version 7.5.2 is open, and in this command shell I will install the Microsoft Graph. You have to install here the Microsoft Graph module. It's called install module Microsoft Graph, and required version 2.22, and the scope is current user. So under the current user that is logged in, we will install the Microsoft Graph, and with the Microsoft Graph in the PowerShell, we will be able to connect to the Azure portal and to connect to Entra ID. Now here I will type here yes. to install this module, Microsoft Graph module. I have to type yes again. Okay, the installation of the Microsoft Graph module is finished. And the next what we can do is to connect to the Azure portal using the Microsoft Graph command. So I will connect here using Microsoft Graph. So connect using Microsoft Graph and read all users and groups. Yes. Tap on enter. In that case, I have to log in. Then a screen pop up. Request my login as administrator. I log in as administrator here. And now it says here authentication completed. That means the authentication is now completed, and I can go back to my command shell, and you see that we are now connected on using the Microsoft Graph SDK and the Microsoft Graph API to access to the portal. And now we can continue by creating, for example, a profile. I can now connect to my profile and change, for example, the password. Password will change. And now the best part is now here where we want to create a new user account. To create a new user account, we can type here the following code. The command is new Microsoft user and Microsoft Graph user. You see, M is for Microsoft, G is for Graph, so new Microsoft Graph user, and we have to specify here the display name, the given name, the surname, the nickname. So all the attributes we need to set using the Microsoft Graph API here. We can then set all the attributes of the user we want to create. The most important here, the user principal name, because this has to be fixed and this is mandatory. So all the other attributes we can set it later, but the user principal name has to be set here. And also the password that we have defined here. We have defined an attribute here. The password attribute that we have defined here and false for next sign in will be assigned to this new user that we have created here. So we have first create an attribute that will contain the password, and now when we create the user, we just give this variable here as password, so it will contain the password. Yes. Now when I click here on next, this new user will be created, and when it's created, then we can okay, I see there's a mistake because I have already created another user with the same data, so I will make a small change here. For that, I will go to the user principal name. I will change things like the user principal name because this has to be unique, and I will say here Gonzalez. Oh no, I will add here the number 1 for the user principal name just to make a short change, a simple change. And I can change here also on the display name or on the given name On the given name, I change also here and add 1 at the end, so we can make the difference between this name here. When we see when we will give a look at the text. So now if I hit enter, okay, this new user Godiness1 is created, and we can check, we can validate it here on the Entra. If I go on Entra, go on all user, and I can search now here for Cody. Okay, we will have in this case 2 users Cody, because I have created a second one. This is the first one that I have created before, and for this exercise I have created another one. It's called Coziness1, and if I expand it, you will see that the username, the user address is also here. See, Godiness1, like I have described, and when we see here all the other attributes, we will see that it's also in the name here, the one that I have added to fix the issue. Okay, now we can go back to the PowerShell, and one thing we can do to see all the list of all the users created, we can type here get MsgUsers, and we will see the list of all the users existing in this tenant. So with get users, we have the list of all the users with the email address, with the ID, with the user principal name. Okay, hope this is helpful for you. Just a demonstration on how we can use the Microsoft Entra ID, how we can use PowerShell using the Microsoft Graph API in PowerShell to create a user and add properties of these users, get the list of all the users in Azure in the Entra ID, and display it here in the PowerShell.